Started. Again, I'm Jim Bob McMillan, the Deputy Director here at TCA, and Anina Moore, our newly christened Director of Communications, is going to be joining me. Anina also is a grant program administrator and will be handling the touring roster, so she's the one that will be answering your questions primarily, but all of the staff can do that. If you want to communicate with us during the webinar, you need to find the box that's located on the right-hand side of your screen. If it's minimized, it looks like a little orange orange box with a white arrow in it. You push that, and you can find within that information a place that asks you to send questions. Some of you have sent us a hello, but others of you haven't. If you get a chance, see if you can find that box and send us a hello so we know that you can hear us and we can communicate with you.
We're seeing some come in. You can ask questions throughout the webinar, but we will also have time at the end to answer questions.
And just so you won't be furiously writing down information, we're going to be emailing you a copy of the PowerPoint and the links after this is over, so you'll have it at your disposal. So let's go ahead and get started. The thing that we want to talk to you a little bit about is the fact that we're a state agency, the Texas Commission on the Arts. Our mission is to advance the state economically and culturally by investing in the creative arts. So we do this by awarding grants and promoting the arts. And we use the roster as one of the primary tools to do this. This is a long-time program here at TCA, and that's one that we're very proud of. So Anina's going to talk to you a little bit more about the different who's who in this program.
Well, the touring roster is one of our widest programs for eligibility. There are many types of entities who can apply to us, including individual artists, bands, and other types of groups that are not necessarily nonprofits or even organized as LLCs or anything like that, and then nonprofits themselves. The goal is that whoever is applying is able to provide professional performances and or arts presentations. A couple of years ago, we opened this roster up to include all of the artistic disciplines, and so while it used to be mostly based in performance, now we really talk about arts presentations and services as well, such as an artist lecture, a workshop, a residency, a master class, a reading, that kind of thing. This roster is helpful to individual artists because it helps them get additional gigs, but it helps us also because really roster artists help us get in to serve rural communities, Title I schools, senior citizens, people with disabilities, geographically isolated communities that are sort of mid-level population but kind of out there in West Texas or East Texas that are not necessarily on the beaten path. And we're really happy with the work that the roster artists have done to help us reach a wide section of Texas's population. As probably hinted in that last slide, we really look at the roster artists as ambassadors. They represent TCA many times to community members for whom this is their first experience of what a TCA program is. And so we really encourage our panelists to look at the applications for high artistic quality and high levels of professionalism. And we want you to remember that as you're making your choices in your application. We also look for artists to be offering competitive prices and programs. This is important because we want to make sure that like, help me out. I'm kind of losing my train of thought on this one.
Well, we have a variety of programs that are competitive in the marketplace in that they are serving the needs that our presenters and constituents might need today. For instance, the schools, with their crunches in their funding, they're often looking for arts programming that can complement what they're doing in the curriculum And so artists can often do that at a reasonable price.
Yeah, this is really a market-based system, so we want to make sure that what you're offering to the market is appropriate. Now, if you get listed on the roster, you will still be making your own bookings and doing your own marketing. We'll help give you some hints on how to market yourself and, of course, how to do your bookings, but you'll still have that decision in your own power. We want to kind of define some terms. We refer to roster applicants as artists. There's another term that we use in this industry pretty regularly, and that's presenter. The presenter is the representative who is hiring you. They may be a performing arts venue, they may be a school, a library, but that in this field is referred to as a presenter. So they would be reviewing the touring roster and kind of shopping for artists. They would contact you if they wanted to hire you, and they would negotiate with you. There is a grant program that we offer that they would apply to help them get assistance with paying a portion of your fees. And so on our side, we maintain the roster, and we assist on all sides. We assist the presenter with applying for grants. We assist them with reviewing the roster and finding an artist who's appropriate for their needs. And of course, we assist you in filling out your applications and any questions that you may have about being represented by the roster. And then, of course, we provide grants to presenters that indirectly support performances by roster artists.
So how do you get started? It's been a few years since we have offered the opportunity for artists to get on the roster, so we wanted to review with you some basic information. And you need to go to our website and pull down under the grants menu. This is a place to start. And right there you'll see the third thing down is the guidelines, and you can read that. I think that's very informative and gives you a lot of context for the information that we're going to be giving you today. But underneath that is the Texas touring roster. We want you to look at that. If you punch on that, you'll bring up a page that looks like what Anina's going to show you right now. And right here on the left-hand side of the page, those areas are how you maneuver within the roster itself. You can look up artists by discipline or alphabetically or by city if you know that. And there's some general information on the right-hand side of the page about how the program works and what you're going to do. So what does a roster listing look like? Here's one right here. You can see that it gives the artist the company's name at the top. It gives a description of their artist services and their different programs. If, for instance, this was a theater company, it might describe the different programs that they have available. They were doing The Wizard of Oz, and they were also doing The Apple Tree, then it might give a short description of those there. At the bottom, there's contact, who a contact for this artist is, an address, a telephone number, there's an email address. If there is a website available, then that's going to be listed. No, it is?
No.
No, it's not going to be listed because we find that those we can't tend to keep up with them. And then your fees and the different ranges of fees. So Anina's going to talk now about the grant program that goes with this.
And something to look forward to if you get accepted on the roster, around about August of next year, we'll take accepted roster artists through another webinar that gives you more detail about marketing yourself and this grant program. But this is the grant program, Arts Respond Performance Support Grants, that is specifically set up to provide grant assistance for performances just by artists on our roster. And you'll see some photos of folks currently on the roster right here. So this program can provide assistance with up to 50% of the fee that you are charging and eligible expenses, and that includes your travel costs, hotel, any per diem that you request, and transportation. We don't assist with food. You will notice that we have this sliding scale phrase parenthetically towards the end. once an artist's fee, for whatever reason, reaches over 2,500, either it's multiple artists in your group, or it's a long-term residency, or whatever, or you're having to travel really far. Once that fee goes above that amount, we have a sliding scale that kicks in on the online application form that gives less than 50% of the fee. It's incremental. The dollar amounts are still going up, but the percentage is going down. And that's really a matter of helping the presenter have a realistic sense of what to expect from us grant-wise. When someone is charging $40,000, it's really hard for us to give one grant of $20,000 among all of our other grants. And so this sliding scale gives them a good sense of what to expect. Now, this grant program is, again, sort of wide in the eligibility. We consider eligible presenters to be any Texas nonprofit or unit of government, and units of government include schools, libraries, and colleges, and we do a lot of work with those units of government. The grant program requires that the applicant match our grant equally. So if we give them a grant for $100, they need to show us that they paid you $200, and that can't be a part where you're waiving a portion of your fee and then valuing it as in kind. We need to see a true payment of $200 in that case. We'll send you a link to the grant guidelines. There will be a slide towards the end where this link will be and other links will be, and we'll send you this PowerPoint towards the end of this presentation so that you can take a look at the guidelines in full.
So there's a question that's come in that says, how do you pull up an application? Well, that's what we're going to talk about right now. The first thing you have to do is you need to have an online grant account with us. And that entails getting a user ID and password that is unique to you, so you can go into our system and put all your information under that account. If you don't remember whether or not you have one, then you can call TCA staff and we'll be glad to help you figure out if you do or don't. And if you don't have one, we'll assign you one. But if you're on the roster, you have one. So keep that in mind. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to make sure you have an online account. And once you get into the grant form, you're going to fill out your general information form. And this could be called the company form, the individual form, or the organization form, depending on what kind of organization you are. And then you will complete the online application and submit it online. And then you're going to send us an audiovisual sample. You can submit that electronically or you can mail it to us. There's a variety of ways that you can submit that audiovisual sample. And this is probably one of your most important tools in making sure that you're successful in this program is a good audiovisual sample. We'll talk about that more in a moment. And then we have a few other supporting attachments that we're going to talk about in a minute. And we will ask you for a link to your website. And it's important for you to know that the evaluators do look at these websites and they glean a lot of information from them. So I start here by telling you that you need to keep in mind the evaluation criteria. When we pull together experts from across the state that'll be looking at these applications on our behalf and grading them, then they're going to be looking at your application with these 3 points in mind. They're looking for high artistic quality, and that counts for the most points, 50 points out of 100. They're looking for your capability, which means you have the ability to tour, you have done it in the past, you're set up to do so, and the impact, which is perhaps what audiences you're impacting, how you're doing things in communities, what variety of things you might be doing. Again, we want to emphasize that quality does count here, and the panelists look at these applications closely, do a lot of work, and so make sure you put forth your best foot.
I want to kind of speak to a question that I got after yesterday's webinar. Someone asked me if, when we said like, if you've applied before, you already have an account, they equated that with if you've applied before, you have an account, you don't have to apply before. But everyone needs to apply to be on the roster, whether you've been on the roster before or not. The account is just what gives you access to the online application, and that's what we're going to talk about now. So to get into the application, you will go to our home page and you'll hover over grants and you'll click on sign in, and then it'll ask you for your account information, your username and password. You'll enter those, and then you'll come to this welcome screen. Towards the bottom here, you'll see the section that says Arts Respond Programs. At the very towards the bottom of that, you'll see organization information. That's that form that Jim Bob talked about that's separate from the application. We recommend that you do it first because some of the information is repeated into the application, and if you do the separate form first, it'll draw into that information into your application and you won't have to do it twice. Like it doesn't reciprocate if you do the application first and then go to this form, so go to this form first. And again, if you're an individual, you'll see individual information, or if you're a company, it'll say company information, and if you're a nonprofit, it says organization information.
And they want to read, and you do have to do this form. It's a required component.
Yes, you won't be able to submit an application online without having this form done. To open up the roster application, you'll go to the menu that right now says Arts Respond Project. This is a screenshot, so it's not live. I can only just kind of gesture towards it, and I can't show you. But if you hit the down arrow, you'll see Touring Roster Inclusion in your options. And then you can hit one of the two buttons to the right of it. Info will get you to the grant guidelines, and it'll be the specific guidelines for applying to be on the roster. And then Apply will open up a brand new blank application. And once you've opened up your brand new blank application, it will be listed below the organization information. That's the one that you see that I've titled Example Application. This is important to know because you may not finish the application all in one go, and so if you close out and then come back in, you don't want to open a blank application again and do that work over and over again. You want to go back to the form that you've already started so that you can pick up where you left off. And just remember to look for the application. You'll be able to give it your own title, and so you can look for it by that title. And if you ever get stuck with that kind of stuff, give us a call. Sometimes we talk to people who have filled out multiple applications without understanding what they've done, and they've wasted a lot of time and they're frustrated, and we're very happy to help you before you reach that point. We're going to go through the application form now, and we'll go screen by screen. If you look at the blue bar on the left-hand side here, there are these little, I refer to them as buttons, starting with application title, and each of those little buttons represents a page of the application. It's a separate screen of the application, so you can kind of gauge what we're going to ask for and how it's organized. And if you are starting back up an application after going to lunch or something like that, you can make note of the screen that you were on and then just hit the button that you want to go directly to that screen. Otherwise, at the bottom of each page, there is the Capture This Information button, and that is an easy and safe way to navigate as well. That button has extra value because it saves your work. So any work that you've done on a screen, you need to hit Capture This Information in order to save your work. If you navigate out by hitting one of these blue buttons without saving your work, you will lose the work on that particular screen. So that's a little bit about navigation. The screen that we're looking at now is the second one. It's titled Applicant Info. And this should autofill from the organization information form, individual information form, company information form that you have filled out and submitted. The DUNS number is only required for nonprofit organizations or units of government. If you're an unincorporated group, a company, a band, or an individual, you don't need to put anything in that blank, and that's why it's optional. So we'll move on to the next screen. That's called Legislative Information. The physical address, the physical zip code that you give for your address will give you a small, limited amount of selections to choose from here for Texas House of Representatives and Senate. If you don't know who your representatives are, you'll be able to click on this red link for Vote Smart in the middle of the white screen to enter your zip code that way and find out who your legislator is. Now, this screen also is part of that form that you'll fill out first. And so this information, when you get into this application form, should already be done. Next, we're moving on to the touring history page. And I have a lot to say about this page. I do want to point out that this is one of the few pages where you can save incrementally. You can enter a portion of your information and then go down and hit the Capture This Information button. And we actually encourage that in the red text that's in the yellow box. We say save your work often, and that's because if you spend more than 10 minutes on a page, even if you're working in it, you can get timed out and lose your work. And so we really encourage you to capture incrementally so that you're able to build on your work incrementally. We ask for the number of bookings that you had in 2012 and 2013. We look at that as your past seasons, and most seasons in this world kind of go from September 2011 through August 2012 for 2012, and then for the 2013 season, September 2012 through August 2013. Now, below that, you see example number 1, and there are 24 more of those below that. And we're really asking you to give us examples of your bookings from the last 2 seasons, and if you have anything really great and that is solidly booked for the current season into spring 2014, I say go ahead and put that in if you've got some great news that you want to share with us. We encourage you to put as close to 25 examples as you can. I know that different artistic disciplines means different numbers of performances per year, but we do want to see as many examples as you can provide. And if you have this opportunity to choose among the many performances that you've done, make your selections so that you're showing a variety of different venues, some school performances, some festival performances, some performances at a larger venue, that you're showing us that you have a geographic reach outside of your local area, and other folks are bringing you into their communities also. If you're touring outside of the state or outside of the country, you can indicate that. All of that helps show that you have a wide appeal. There is a place to indicate the title of the program that you presented. Some people have specific program titles, like, it's the title of the play they're performing or the theme of the stories that they're telling. Other times when you're a musician, your program is just songs I wrote. But if you are applying and talking about different programs that you'll be offering, it will be good for us to see whether those programs are a part of your past bookings and how well presenters wanted to book them. The dates are fixed here. You can't pick anything. You can't show us anything earlier than January 2011, but they do go into, I believe, 2014, so that you can show us future dates. Again, I want those to be really solid dates rather than perspective. And there's a little area here that says presented before. if you check that to show that someone has had you once and liked you so much they brought you back, that's a really great thing to be able to show to the panel as well. When you're looking at which presenters to list, remember that the presenters we work with are nonprofits and units of government. So if you are only able to show us, for example, that you had a lot of gigs in coffee houses and bars, that doesn't convey your appeal particularly well in terms of your appeal to our presenters. It looks like we have some questions, so I'll stop and we'll answer those. If you do 5 programs at a school, do you report 1 program or 5? We're looking at bookings as like number of contracts. So if you have 1 contract to do 5 performances in a day or in a couple of days, we would consider that to be 1 booking. If your programs that you were doing varied, like by age group or theme or something like that, you would probably be able to maybe truncate your program titles and put in some commas so that you can say, you know, fairy tales, comma, ghost stories, etc. Let's see. We see, is it better to give touring performances over local? I would say to kind of try and show both if you can. I would definitely, if you have a variety of touring performances, I would go with those. I would make sure that you were showing those specifically. For the touring history, do all of these have to be paid performances, or can you include performances that were free community performances? We want to really look at the appeal to presenters, and so I think that it would be best to make sure that you're showing paid performances as much as possible. Again, we also, if you're self-producing where there's no presenter but you're presenting yourself, showing up and doing the performance and hiring the hall, that's not really what we want to see here either. We want to see that someone wanted to hire you. Someone asked us to redefine the seasons. So for 2012, we look at this as September 1st, 2011 through August 31st, 2012. And for 2013, September 1st, 2012 through August 31st, 2013. Let's see, someone asked if we should focus on Texas presenters or is it better to show a variety across the U.S. I would show both. You want to talk about presenters in Texas because some of them may be folks who are constituents of ours, and that definitely shows a direct connection to folks who use the touring roster. But showing that you have an appeal outside of Texas also, you know, can show that you have a wide appeal. So again, work towards a mixture. Let's see. Someone is asking about whether showing 25 school programs in October as a matter of working that much. You know, do you want to see a sample spread over the last 2 years? I would say if you only do school shows and you only do school shows in the themes that you did in October, that would be okay, but I think that our panel is also going to be looking at a sense that you are touring regularly, so you may want to actually mix that up. And you also may have gone other places other than, you know, the month of October that you would want to include. So I would actually spread that over the year, or over the 2 years. The presented before box means that, you know, the Paramount Theater in Austin hired you to perform in February 2012. You did it, and then they hired you again to perform in October 2013. So that means that they've hired you at least twice, maybe even more so. And it means that they had you on stage once, they liked what you did, their audience was appreciative, they thought, we got to get them back, and they presented you again. And that helps show that you're making the presenters happy. If they want to bring you back, that means that you had good audiences and good appeal to the presenter.
And those repeat performances don't necessarily have to be within the 2 years of this touring history. It could have happened prior to these 2 years.
It's true. It's true. Okay, so we're going to move on. We have more to cover. The descriptive information is more narrative in nature. Again, this is a screenshot, but there are 4 narrative boxes that have word lengths of like 100 or 75 words, so they're still pretty brief. Much of what you're seeing on this page informs the description that we provide for you on the roster. So what you write here is how we will describe you on the roster. We ask for your bio, your program description, and you can show more than one program, and the residency services that you offer. And those 3 things are included in your roster listing. The other question is a question about your training and expertise in this artistic discipline. All 4 of these questions are reviewed by the panel, so they'll be taking into account your training and expertise as well as the other questions. Above there, we ask you to select your primary artistic discipline. And so if there is an option to say that you're multidiscipline, if that applies to you. Now, one of the most important things that I can say about this page is, if you remember, composing and writing for a long time in one page can kind of time you out and lose your work. So we always encourage folks to write text like this in a word processing program first. That way you can check your word count, you can check your spelling and your grammar, and you can just kind of formulate it the way you want to, then copy it and paste it into these boxes. That way you'll have your work saved in the word processing program, and then you can really quickly fill out this page and capture this information. Moving on to the touring fees. This is where we talk about money. We want you to get what you need in order to make it worth it to do your performances, and so you see we have some guidelines on how to determine your fee range. Your fee should include production costs that help you, do the show, as well as like paying yourself, and any travel costs that you have, lodging, per diem, transportation, etc. We have some specific types of costs, like public and school performances, etc. And then we have some other blanks. The other blanks are where if you offer things that don't fit into any of the first 4 categories, where you can kind of specify a type of price for that. We have some singer-songwriters who will do special shows with symphonies, and so if they want to let the symphony know that they're available for that, they can put, symphony show, and then they can show their price range for that. Other folks have used it to talk about variations in size, like if a symphony is on the roster and they frequently send out a quartet, they can put, under other, for the blah, blah, blah quartet, and they can give those specific prices. We want this to only include expenses that are arts related and that we could fund. We don't fund fundraisers, so that would be one that I would take out. And then sometimes we just have things that don't seem art related, like business consulting fees or something like that, and that's just something that we won't list in the roster. But this is where if you're a choreographer or a composer, you could put in like what your commissioning fees are. So we have this range, low to high. I always tell people that the low is one person from your group walking down the block and doing a short performance. No travel fees, very few artists, not a lot of fuss in terms of what the performance is. The high is the larger group of your performing group going across the state and doing a lengthier level or more intense level of performance. You want to make sure when you're setting these fees that they are still reasonable. If you never do 5-day residencies, then it doesn't make sense to take that into consideration when you're figuring out your high fee, and the panel may actually say, their fees just look really high for what they're offering, and you know, that may hurt you. So you want to make sure that you're taking into consideration what would look reasonable. So we're going to move on to the ethnicity information page. This is another portion of that separate organization information form. And so you'll have already filled that out in this form, and it'll autofill into the application form. Next, we'll go to the assurances page, and if you're keeping track by looking at that blue column on the left-hand side, you'll see we're almost done with the application. The assurances page is one of the supporting materials that we ask you to send to us. It has several points of agreement in terms of mostly complying with federal legislation, and state legislation as well, I should say. And you'll, towards the bottom, be able to fill it out for yourself. Then you'll print it, you'll sign it, and you will mail it to us along with your other supporting materials. Towards the end of the application, you'll come to the summary. It will reiterate what you've chosen to be the contact email address that we'll use to be in touch with you about your application. And you'll have an opportunity to change that. It gives you instructions there. In red, you see the link to the attachments checklist, and we'll show you what that looks like a little bit later. The attachments have a postmark deadline of January 31st, so that is the day to submit your application online, as well as to mail your attachments. And in many cases, you can do that by Dropbox, or you can mail it. Your application at this point will not be submitted. That's what the text in bold is trying to tell you. And to submit your application, you will click on the green button on the left that says Submit Your Application. And clicking on that won't submit your application. It'll take you to this screen, which says, you know, effectively your application is ready to be submitted. It doesn't check your application with any level of depth, so you still have to do that to make sure that there's no transposition of digits or misspellings or, you know, anything that you forgot to include. But yeah, as far as it's concerned, you're ready to go. And when you feel that you're ready to go, you can hit I am authorized to submit this application. And at that point, you should see a confirmation screen with a confirmation number. You'll see that first when you submit that separate organization information form. So kind of get ready to see that screen twice. If you have any questions about that as you're submitting, call us so that we can make sure that you get it into us by the deadline.
So now we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about your audiovisual sample. And we do want you to consult the audiovisual form instructions, which we're going to, you'll see in a minute on the AB checklist where to find that. But we want to make sure that you have good quality sound and video, and there's a question about whether or not what kind of video to show. You need to give the best representative audiovisual sample for the evaluators so that they can understand what you can do and try to show a variety of settings. If you do children's programming but you also do adult concerts, then you need to try to show both of those. And audience reactions are important for the panelists. And they need to be recent. It needs to be something that has occurred within the last 2 years. Again, the variety of all of your programs, and it should be something touring. Everything on the sample you give shouldn't be from one program the same day. It doesn't really show that you're touring very much. And finally, you have to tie this up in a neat little package that is in 4 minutes or less. And yes, we will, if you send us something that's 6 minutes, we'll stop it at 4 minutes. And right now, Anina's going to look at some comments that have come in from our panel discussions from the evaluators, and these are specific to the audiovisual material.
Yeah, I'm reading these for emphasis, y'all. So the panelists said, good audiovisual materials make all the difference. The panelists would like to see work samples for literary artists particularly, such as publications. They might need to have book reviews, and I would say that that's probably something that would go on that artist's website. Artists need to have representation of workshops and educational offerings in audiovisual presentation, if that's something that they're offering. Panelists need to see the audience and what their reaction is. Panelists need to have opportunities to see the work so that presenters know what they are getting. And they also suggest that on your website you include feedback or reviews from presenters, which gets us to the next screen.
So your website is one of the primary ways that the evaluators are going to get a sense of you as an artist. So they're going to look at your appeal and your business and artistic professionalism, and to look for more information than you've been able to write in this sort of brief overview that the application allows you. So make sure that you give your website a brush up and make sure that all the information is up to date. You can consider using your website as your electronic press kit and include photos and reviews and what's your repertoire that's available, your bio. If you're already on the roster, it would behoove you to put the TCA logo on your website and keep it current. Nothing aggravates the evaluators more than going and looking at recent performances, and it dates to 2009. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, and make sure your website is consistent with what you've been saying in your application. So we're showing you now the screen for the attachment checklist, and there are 4 things listed there, which for those of you who have applied before for years, this number kind of has shrunk because we get to rely on your websites a lot more. So I can't emphasize enough that the websites are really important. So we ask for a photo, and that's to help us represent you on the online touring roster. And then there's a photo release form. The PDF link is right there. You'll fill that out, sign it, and get it to us, and that gives us permission to use your photo. And then the audio-visual sample. Next to that listing, there's a PDF to download. It's 2 pages, and it's really good guidelines to give you a sense of how to format your audiovisual sample. It'll reiterate a lot of the stuff that we have said today about length and the fact that it needs to be 1 sample rather than a couple of CDs and 1 DVD and that kind of thing. So don't leave that to the last minute. Take a look at that PDF to really guide you in looking at what you're going to send us. And then point number 4 is the signed copy of that assurances page that I talked about when we were looking at the application.
There's a question that says that the video that the artist has been doing has been primarily from the back of the audience because they're mostly youth audiences, and for privacy purposes they haven't been showing the faces. And would that be okay? And the answer to that is yes.
Yeah.
What the panelists are looking for is the reaction that the students are having to the performance, and they can hear and see that even from the back. So that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, and the more you can show the whole room being attentive to your work, I mean, I think that's great.
So the timeline that we're looking at is you begin now working on your application, and you can submit it anytime up until January 31st. That's when it is absolutely due. On January 17th is the last time that you can ask us to review your application. You must make that request. Either you can telephone us or you can email, but make sure you identify who you are, because sometimes people will leave a message and say, please review my application. We have no idea who you are. Again, January 31st is the deadline for both your online application and your audio-visual material. So when you're sending your audio-visual material, particularly if you're mailing these materials to us or shipping them in some form, you should pay the little extra for the tracking so that you know that it reaches us, and you can tell us that your end says that it reached us on a specific time and date. That's important when things get lost, as they do sometimes in the mail. In the spring, the later spring, we will have some panel meetings, and the evaluators will meet. And then in early June, our commission will meet, and they'll look at the scores that are generated by the evaluators, and they'll determine who will be on the roster. Usually it's about 50% of the number of applications that we have, but it could vary. And finally, September 1st, 2014 is when the roster will take effect, and it will go through August 31st of 2016.
All right. We promise you links to information that you'll want to review. We encourage you to look at the current Texas touring roster to see how folks are listed and who has been successful in getting on the roster, what types of artists. Then there's a link to the application guidelines and the FAQ, and additionally a link to the grant program if you want to familiarize yourself with that now. Again, I will email you this PowerPoint after this webinar is over so that you can review the slides as much as you would like.
So, Anita, there's about 125 artists and companies that are on the roster?
Yes, yes.
And so I know that we had in excess of 200 applicants the last time we did this, so that kind of gives you an idea. One of the things that I wanted to point out is that if you look at that roster, being on there doesn't automatically mean that they have been supported by TCA Arts Respond grants, because, as we said early, it's for the artist has to promote themselves, and so some have done a better job than others. Does anybody have any questions? This is our time we've set aside to answer any more questions that you might have.
Wow. Well, I do want to encourage you with your audiovisual samples to make sure that you're sending us as close a sample of what a live performance of yours entails. That's really what we're looking for. It's what the panel wants to see. So studio-produced CDs and that kind of thing isn't going to be as helpful as a true recording of a live performance.
Well, it looks like we've bowled you over with a lot of information, but we want to assure you that if you do think of something later on this afternoon or this evening or tomorrow, you can get in touch with us. You can call Nina. Her information is on the screen now and will be in the PowerPoint that we emailed to you. Or you can contact any of the staff. There is a question here. It says that the roster seems to be geared more toward performance. We've talked about it that way because for a long time it's all it was.
And that's the majority of the artists still on it. But it is open to all disciplines. We really look to see what you offer in terms of a live activity. So it's not about helping you get your work exhibited as much as, yes, doing artist talks, lecture demonstrations, and workshops. So you can apply on the level of what artistic services you would be able to present in person. And we definitely have people do mural workshops with kids and take people through their artistic process as writers, media artists, and visual artists.
Right. So again, be in touch with us if you need to be. We're always available Monday through Friday from 8 until 5 in the afternoon. And we do appreciate your attention this afternoon and look forward to some great applications from you. Thank you very much.